Joe Richardson, Joe Speak Podcast. I always say I got a good one. But I got a good one again in a unique way.
Nielsen rolling right, looking downfield.
We're going to be talking to Jon Nielsen.
To the 10, hopping at the 5, to the end zone. From the 17 of Quad Cities. Nielsen takes the snap, rolls left, runs it upfield to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown, Twisters, Jon Nielsen. And he does the splits in the end zone.
Jon Nielsen is a guy where you'll find out that sports is a family affair and a community affair for him. He's a former pro football player, has actually made a career in sports and entertainment related careers, and he's also mentored family members and community members who've gone on to do incredible things in sports. We're going to talk about several things. Not only his background, we'll build the house like we always do, but give people a sense for sports-related careers, talk about some of the ins and outs of sports, some of the things that people that like sports, like pro football, don't necessarily see. We'll also talk about trophy culture for folks that are coming up, as well as the club team scene. So we'll get into some of everything. I think you'll get some eye-opening information and perspective from someone that's seen it on a lot of different sides. So that's what we're doing today on the Joe Speak Podcast. Once again, here we are. Let's go. All right, we're back. Joe Speak Podcast. Like always, I always look to bring folks that bring something unique to the table. We're guest-driven. So I put on the guests that know and get out of the way. And we did that again today. This brother's fam, known him for a long time, Jon Nielsen. Even though we didn't meet at school, we go back 20 years from the same school, almost 25 now. But in any event, a guy, former pro football player, who has some perspective, not only and as well as sports related careers, has a good sense for the ins and outs, the goods, the bads, the uglies, what sports does for young people, what he's seen it do even in his own family. So today I've got Jon Nielsen with me. Jon, what's up, man? How you doing, fam?
What's good?
Good, man.
Finally.
Yeah. It's good to see you. We've been negotiating for some period of time.
Yeah.
So had one thing or another jump off. So, but I'm glad we were able to get in here, and it's important because I think that this is some very useful information for folks. Anybody that watches TV that has a family member in sports. Somebody that's coming up in sports, somebody that has a love for sports, somebody that has a disdain for sports. I think that this is an interview for all of them. So let's build the house. Talk to me a little bit about your background in terms of, where you came up, and let's get to your process in terms of get into the pro football area.
Sure. So, obviously growing up, youth sports. My dad, didn't really play sports, but he was athletic. He was a former LAPD cop, and he got hurt on the job, so he was a banker. So my older brothers knew him as a LAPD cop, and then for me, I knew him as a banker.
Right.
So he was one of the dads that was very supportive. I think I played every sport. He made me play everything from soccer, on basketball, baseball, football, flag football. We did. And he tried to coach as much as he could, not even knowing what to do, but he wanted to be involved with me. Right. So I guess my dad kind of laid the blueprint down early for getting out of your comfort zone, because he didn't come from an athletic family per se. He wanted to spend time and do what was best for me. And back then when you're a kid, you just play sports, and I just kind of picked up and, kind of coordinated and those different things. So as it progressed up, I played all the youth sports until I got to middle school. And then middle school, I played, I think, all three sports we offered. It was volleyball, basketball, and flag football. And then when I went to, high school, I played three sports. I played basketball, football, and volleyball. I was burnt out of baseball by that time because of, we could kind of backtrack on this, the daddy ball aspect of playing Little League and not having my dad coach me as I got older.
Sure.
The people who were managing teams had their kids pitch.
Mm. whether they should have been or not, right?
Right. That's the same thing. I kind of had an experience like that too with freshman football, where the uncle of the team made his nephew the quarterback, and the kid was half of my size. And we could talk about those things too, but it's kind of funny how you see things happen, don't even know they're happening, but you just kind of persevere through things, and things kind of work out in the end. So for me, the transgression and kind of going up to do things with youth sports, I didn't play tackle until I got to high school. So I'm a kind of big proponent of non-contact football until you get to high school, and we'll talk about what that CTE stuff and everything, and the bad coaching you get, with the other stuff. We kind of backtrack with that. Probably piss a lot of people off with my opinion on that, but it's kind of a consensus with some of my other pro athletes. When they're kids, they've kind of took the same route. So then, high school, it was good. We had 3 pro athletes on my football team, and we were 2-8 my junior and senior year. And that has to do with coaching. So I kind of took the path into coaching with the mindset that I was going to do for kids that my coach didn't do for me. So that kind of lit the fire there with that. And then even going from high school, I knew I could play. Wasn't heavily recruited because we were 2-8. Ended up walking on at Fresno State with another teammate that graduated the year before. I balled out up there. I was, pretty much what they call the rookie of the year on the scout team. I got the Sweeney Scout Team Award, which is given by the defensive staff. That was everybody's quarterback that year. I was Jeff Garcia, of all things, when he was at San Jose State. And, so it was kind of a fun process. Ended up transferring, came back home. I could kind of touch on that, the dark side of recruiting at the JC level. I was kind of swindled to come back to Long Beach State or Long Beach City with a dangled carrot of going to Cal after. So we could talk about that. Had a bad experience there. Luckily, I had a mentor that jumped in and kind of kept me ahead of the game. Persevered through that. Ended up going to Redlands after that.
That's where all our mutual friends were, but I had left before you got there, right?
Yeah. All our mutual friends were Redlands. Had promises of certain things that didn't happen after the first year, and then some things happened my junior year, and I ended up transferring within the SCIAC, which is I was the first player to do that. So I had to find my life away on affidavits and different things that I wouldn't transfer back to graduate at Redlands. And my coach at Claremont was a big influence on me. He told me he kind of caught wind of what I was trying to do. I mean, I'm 20-something years old, thinking I'm going to go play and then go back and graduate on time at Redlands. Like, let me tell you something, son. It took me a lot to get you here, so I'd expect you to honor your commitment and finish here, and get the degree from Claremont. You don't think about that when you're young, but I ended up doing that, and I'm glad I did. And then and for a Division III player to make it to the NFL to play professional football is pretty much slim to none. So I was a free agent with the Raiders. And I could talk about how that whole process kind of came to be with my pro days and the different workouts that I had to go to kind of prove myself. And so I was a free agent, 96, 97 with the Raiders. The first year they went back to Oakland. So we had mini camp was still in El Segundo. And then, training camp was back in Napa. So all those different things kind of happened. And I went from there. And I went to Canada. I went to Toronto, the CFL, played for a coach up there. For a coach kind of infamous, John Jenkins, the run and shoot guru from University of Houston with Andre Ware and David Klinger when he was setting all these records. He became one of my, true mentors. And so he took me under his wing. So I played for him 4 years in 2 different leagues. So he kept me in the CFL. Then when he went to Arena, I went back to Arena with him in Little Rock, Arkansas. And then he went back to Canada. I went back with him, back to Toronto again. So I was in Toronto 2 separate years, 98 and 2001. And in between that whole kind of thing, football has always been part of my DNA and working out and these different things. So I always found the different things to do in my downtime. So whenever I played, I was that guy that was on the radio stations in the morning with the talk show hosts and doing marketing and doing different things. Kind of the locker room lawyer. I was between management, coaching, and the players. That's just kind of where I found my natural space. The playing part was in my DNA, so that was given. That was already there. So what do I do with all this downtime? So, I kind of got into the marketing of things and then in between that, I was my own PR marketing person.
Right,
So I send my headshots out. I send the packets out to all the clothing industry people. And then one of my good friends at, Jay-Z's brand, Rockaware, was one of the first guys that kind of took me in and just kind of, started sending me packages. I had no idea what product placement was, what, monthly flow was, and these different things.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So another one of my good friends that I reached out to, he had a company in New York called Mad Soul Clothing.
Yeah.
So it was all the different MC, the breaking, the freestyle. So he had that. So I became really good friends with him.
Yeah.
This is going back 16 years now, maybe 17, 18 years.
Sure.
And it's a funny story because he and his family are the TikTok moguls. So it's the D'Amelio family, Dixie, Charlie.
Sure.
So the father, Mark, is one of my good friends, one of my oldest friends in the industry.
Right.
And he was one of the first ones that gave me free clothes when I was playing.
Wow.
Just off a random email,
Right.
I sent my little cover sheet and I kind of got that. And so that kind of started my way into this whole thing of, marketing and different things. And then at the same time, I was doing a lot of acting.
Right,
so basically every offseason I came back and did commercial work. So I've been a member of the SAG since 99.
Right. Oh, wow. So
I had pretty much a national commercial every year. So I made more money doing commercial work than I made some of my contracts playing.
How about that? Wow.
And in between that, I did a lot of video game work.
Sure. Okay.
Motion capture. So that's kind of where I started my motion capture, my sports marketing company, doing video game, providing, players for Madden, 2K, Sony. So basically I had contracts in the heyday of my motion sports. I had contracts with every major, video game company. So we supplied all the football games, all the basketball games, some of the baseball, and
so you go in and wear like these. Yeah,
that's the one. You see the little sensors, the black dots.
Right.
So basically, the stuff they do, they don't always get the big name guys that do it. So I pretty much had a team of guys who work with me in commercials that were actors, stuntmen, and that. So they're the ones that brought the whole game to life.
Right. So you not only did that yourself, you brought in other people to do it.
Yeah, so and it kind of happened that way. So I would do it in the off season. My first job was through Microsoft, NFL Fever.
Right.
So basically, I did Peyton Manning's motions the whole time. They had like 4 installments of the game. So I did Peyton Manning's all of his motion capture work, all the quarterback motions for him.
Wow.
And so my guy at Sony. So when I was playing in arena, he said, "Hey, we're coming down and shoot." He goes, "Well, I can't make it." He's like, "Well, do you have some friends that can?" So I was like, "Yeah." So I called back home and got these guys. So I started thinking, I'm not doing this for free.
Right.
So, I negotiated a deal where I got my 10% commission from Microsoft and I got my 10% commission from the talent.
Right. Sure.
So I was like, oh, there's an agency. So that's, thus motion sports management, kind of flew into effect.
Right.
And, my webpage is still up. It hasn't been updated, but I mean, we've worked on so many games. It was kind of cool. We did the Black College one.
Yeah.
This popped up anniversary. It was like a 10-year, 30, I think it might have been a 20-year anniversary of that.
Right. Wow. So tell me about the styling side in terms of you styling and, wearing clothes and that kind of thing.
That's kind of been a misnomer too, because I know a lot of people kind of had a negative connotation with what styling is in the industry, like, kind of different. So how I kind of got involved with everything when I got done playing is I had, from my own stuff, I had all these contacts with the clothing brands at the time, Fat Farm, Pele, Academics, we could go down through Snoop Dogg clothing. We could go down through everything. Right. I had a connection for myself. Right. So I was like, how do I put this into motion?
Right.
A friend of mine knew Ricky Bell from New Edition.
Sure.
And this is right before One Love, before they signed with Puff.
Right.
So basically I got the intro, went to the hotel, hooked him up with stuff.
Yeah.
Met with Rick, and then Rick brought me in, and then Ralph and I connected right away. Johnny and I connected right away.
Yeah.
And it was kind of surreal for me because, as you know, that's our generation, right?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
So I still remember the first call I had when Ralph called me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember because you hear the voice.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
And it was, it was like, it was weird to be able to see those guys and to work with them. So I pretty much got those guys clothes for the One Love tour because I don't know if you knew, but Puffy had no money for marketing.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the reasons it tanked, right? I mean, they were getting themselves on TV shows and stuff.
The good thing for them was it got them out of their contract with MCA.
Right. Sure.
They got rid of that. Right.
But
they had no money to support. So I had to get a bunch of stuff for the video shoots for shows that we did.
Yeah.
So, 'cause that was kind of like my internship in the industry.
Yeah.
So the PR people they had, Heidi Bush was the one that put me in touch. She's actually Ron Artest's PR person now.
Yeah.
She wrote the Ron. So she put me in touch with Boyz II Men when they got new management. We're like, hey, they're doing a Dub magazine shoot.
Sure.
They need some stuff. So I'm like, cool. So, I got stuff together. We went on a photo shoot out in the Valley, and we hit it off like we had been friends forever.
Right.
So, so when the new manager came in, they were like, hey, the boys love you. We got to find a way to put you on.
Right.
10 years later, here I am.
Right. Still working with them.
Rocking with them. And, and my role with them is kind of lifestyle marketing, which I would kind of consider what that is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do a multitude of different things with each individual and collectively.
Right.
So that kind of new addition went into the Boyz II Men connection. And then obviously through that, I managed Aaron Hall from Guy for a year.
Right.
And, some different things with that. Yeah. So to be in the industry, I kind of play both sides of the fence with that. I'm actually on the outside bringing things to the client, and on the client side, I'm getting things as well. So it's different. And then I parlay that stuff into the sports side of it, working with the pro athletes.
Sure.
With the Colton Wong, with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Two kids that play in the NFL with the Saints and the Eagles.
Sure. And
just kind of tapping into, and I kind of found a little niche too with the Hawaii athletes.
Yeah, gotcha.
So over the last 10, 12 years, I've kind of latched on. I helped a lot of the University of Hawaii football players get their agents.
Yeah.
During the heyday of their program.
Sure.
And those guys, they're off doing other things in the area, and
right.
I've kind of, I still have the same connections out there. And my nephew played football out there, so
sure.
It just kept that whole the tie-in was
yeah.
To me, it's one big pot of gumbo, but I mean, but the different things that I've done are kind of, chopping the ingredients up here,
right.
and kind of mix it together. And then obviously, mentoring my nephews who are all in the industry, for big companies. And,
right.
So we could talk about all those different things and the kind of, the career path that I'm pushing my kids towards. And,
right.
All those different things, kind of everything is strung on a line that's very cohesive,
right?
And sports is a big part of that,
right? Now that's huge. So let's talk about this a little bit, because you mentioned how some of your experiences coming up with people, putting their family members on, to quarterback the team or whatever else. And, by way of background, I mean, you were a quarterback, and not only were you a quarterback, but you shattered records, and then you came along and basically did the same thing as an offensive coordinator in the high school space. So talk about how you approach, a couple things. First of all, talk about, this is something I've always wanted to ask an offensive person or a defensive person about the other side of the ball. How much do you pay attention to how good the defense is or isn't if you're coming in to offensive coordinate? Because now your offenses are exciting and fun to watch, and you score and you get a lot of yards or whatever else. But is it a situation where you're okay with the fact that, if the defense is no good, you got to score 40 a game to win? Or I mean, it affects your field positioning, right?
Sure. Yeah. And so basically, I'm a run and shoot. I'm from that family tree, which is, it's a very small. I almost consider it like the Jedi Order.
Right.
It's a very small sect of people that know how to coach the run and shoot correctly.
Sure.
June Jones.
Yeah. Sure.
June Jones had his sect of it. John Jenkins had his part of it.
Yeah.
Miles Davis and June are kind of on the traditional side of it.
Right.
Where Jenkins at Houston kind of took it to another level.
Sure.
Different stretch points and those things. And Nick Rolovich runs it when he was at Hawaii. Now Nick's at Washington State. So there is somebody running the run shoot still.
Yeah.
But the main philosophy is this, and it's a philosophy that, Jenks told me this, and I'll never forget it. People always want to say, take what the defense gives you, that or the other. Right. He said, no, take what you want.
Right. Wow.
That's kind of the way I view how I coach,
right, and
I teach all my kids and players about life. Take what you want. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't settle for what someone gives you. If you want something, go get it and take it. Don't, so with the run and shoot, the defense is going to be on the field more because either I'm going to score quick or I'm going to be out quick. So the defense, the D coordinator with the run and shoot is in a bad position to begin with. You're already behind the 8 ball being a coordinator because it's feast or famine.
Right.
But I could tell you that the teams that I coach the GAR with my nephews.
Yeah, GAR and Cerritos, right?
Yep, I should have 2 CIF rings from the seasons we did, but we couldn't play defense to save our butt.
Right.
So, my nephew, they were the number 1 passing quarterbacks in the state of California, not just Southern California, all of California.
Both of them.
Both of them.
Crazy.
And we couldn't get out of the semis because we couldn't play defense. Wow. So we would score 40, 50 points a game and still give up 50, 60 points a game.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the funny part is the head coach would always tell us the offense is the problem.
Oh.
So I have email, and I can show you. I have the receipts. I have the receipts.
Right.
And, and that's another thing, too. It's funny, but I got 2 kids that are going on year 5 in the NFL, so that kind of speaks volumes of what this offense does.
Right.
The capabilities of it. You could look at Emmanuel Sanders.
Right, sure.
He's a run and shoot product when June was at SMU. So there's some guys that are doing things, and the big joke about the run and shoot amongst pro coaches is they always want to say the run and shoot was a system offense. I don't know if you remember, 5 to 10 years ago, everybody was talking about the system.
Yes.
Well, look at what Mahomes did in college. He was a system guy, right? But look how that's translating into the NFL now.
Sure.
Before that was frowned upon.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So, my nephews and some of my other players will take video of the games like, oh, hey, look at this route. There's different names for run and shoot routes. Like, hey, look, this is Houston. Here's divide.
Right.
And, I'll send that to June and Jenks. And I'm like, hey, look, so the run and shoot's a system, but all the NFL teams incorporate the same concepts.
Right. Yeah, sure.
But it's okay to do that. But you can't run it because there was only a couple of teams that ran the run and shoot in the NFL.
Yeah.
Officially,
right? Yeah.
That party, the Oilers did it. The Falcons did it. Then the Lions did it.
Right,
and June did it. And June did it in San Diego when he was a head coach there for those years.
Did the Falcons do it with Jeff George?
Yes, but Jeff, because Jeff was a quarterback when I was with the Raiders too, and Jeff, you want to talk about someone that has some high egos? Whoa, man, some of these guys, but that was a knock on him. He relied on his arm. He just couldn't throw the ball on time.
Right, sure, interesting.
Yeah, so there's some.
So tell me about this. I was mentioning this the other day. I'm a Magic Johnson guy. I enjoy football, but I played flag football one year. I never caught a pass. I pulled one flag all year. So I don't think you could have made me any better. But in any event, I was a basketball guy, and I remember Magic getting hurt in his second year, torn cartilage, 45 games. And there's so many injuries now that would be so minor compared to what they were back in the day. But then last weekend, you look at Dak Prescott. You know what I mean? Who's gone for at least the year, maybe for a year. What has
about 4? Yeah, go ahead.
What has changed about? Is it velocity? Is it the equipment? Is it the turf or whatever else that really gets people in such situations? I've seen this happen with several people recently.
What people are going to say it's because COVID and different things, how that is. I think it's just a fluke with the injuries. Training and athletes have performance-wise it's a better process now to do that. So athletically, the talent level is better now than it's ever been in the league.
Sure.
Even going back 10 years, how you train, how you take care of your body.
Right.
So people are bigger, faster, stronger.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate Dak's kind of thing happened, just out the blue. It wasn't from a hit. It was from he planted and snapped,
Right.
Just so those are all things that are part of the game that it's not a safe game. It's a violent game.
Right.
A lot of people get hurt not even getting contact. One of my kids went on IR at practice, pulled a muscle in his tricep just on a release. Just the body just, does things it's not supposed to sometimes.
Right.
So I don't think that it's per se that, Magic got hurt back then.
Right.
Treatment and therapy are better now.
Yeah, sure.
But the fact that kids are bigger, stronger, faster puts more stress on their body parts.
Yeah.
Like Saquon got hurt, blew his knee out.
Sure.
All these things happen.
Yeah.
One hit. And it doesn't even have to be, your fault or somebody else's fault. Just the way you plant.
Right.
And your leg gives out.
Right. Now, I
You know,
remember we had this conversation because, you know, I've got a cousin that was kind of on the bubble in terms of trying to get drafted and probably would have to make it as a free agent and things like that. I got a little bit of a window into something I never had, and that is the process when somebody is on the bubble in terms of getting either drafted late or not at all. So talk a little bit about you know, the process of, you know, undrafted free agents, people that are on the bubble, on the dole, how they normally make it, what they're normally able to count on, and how that's changed with COVID.
Yeah. So basically, you know, all the NFL teams have a scouting department, right? You have your pro personnel who deal with other personnel within the other team. So if someone gets cut or released, they have the skinny on them. They have the reports. Then you have your ones that recruit the street free agents. When you're a street free agent means you've been out of football a couple years or whatnot. And then, you know, they recruit, you know, they have tabs on kids that play at smaller schools and that. So a lot of these scouts get a bonus when they bring kids in, they make the team. They get bonuses on these things.
Sure.
So they have thick reports on people who they recommend. So basically they go through their best players, and as the draft goes on, you know, the next best up kind of comes in, they take them off the board.
Yeah.
And right when it's done, because there's a lot of kids that get like, you know, third, fourth round grades that have become free agents. So that's when the phone rings. As soon as the draft's over, the phone, their agent and the phone are ringing about, you know, wheeling and dealing, trying to get you signed on a team.
Right.
So that's the first wave. And then once that happens, a lot of times they'll have a mini camp the following weekend, and they'll invite the guys that they picked up as free agents and guys that they want to work out again too. Sure. So from that camp, they'll still sign some more free agents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they sign the free agents, so that, and they'll do that like, you know, 1 or 2, you know, weeks of mini camps doing that. And then what they'll do is they'll bring guys into the facility to go work out.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of the way, going off on a quick tangent, how I was when I was with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Is I had a call, my agent had a call with the Raiders and the Chargers. Those are the two teams that inquired when the draft was over.
Sure.
You know, San Diego's talking about picking me up late, and then free agency, and then the Raider deal sounded better, so they wanted me to come down there and work out.
Right.
So I went up there, and there was probably like four other receivers, a couple running backs.
Yeah.
You know, they made them run the 40, sent people home. They know what they want to get.
Right.
And those guys didn't get that, and they said, "Okay, thank you guys for your workout." They said, "Keep the pens." One of my friends of those guys, and I always tease them like, "Hey, you still got that pen?" You know, had the Oakland Raiders on there and whatnot.
Right.
You know, so I was out there throwing to like 3 receivers. Had the head coach Mike White was out there, the offensive coordinators and that, you know, and I got signed because I could throw the long ball. They were like, "Man, you throw the long ball. I wish we could get, you know, you throw like Hostetler. What's Hostetler could throw the ball like this?" You know, that's when Haas was the quarterback that year. Yeah. So that was kind of my way into it, and those are the way those things go. They bring people in for workouts, you know, all the way even through training camp.
Right.
So you know, it's one of those things you got to stay ready. Now with COVID, and we had spoke about this.
Right.
It cut that opportunity down because typically, like if a kid gets signed as a free agent, they give him 15,000 maybe. Yeah. And then the kid that gets drafted in the 7th round is making a lot more money.
Right. Sure.
So OTAs and those things mean a lot because you could actually show your personality and your work ethic in the locker room and with the coaches.
What does OTA stand for? That's
the off-season training stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they could actually go and do things, and you know, my one kid made the team that way with the Falcons. He went undrafted at a UW, the one that's playing now with the Eagles.
Right.
So he kind of staked his claim because he worked his butt off and proved that, you know, he was a guy.
Sure.
So with COVID, you don't get that because you don't get the OTAs. You don't get to be around the team. Everything's virtual. So they don't get to see your work ethic. So when they went to camp, that was the first time they got to see you. So some kids got cut that got drafted late within the first 5 days.
Sure. Wow.
You know, so the opportunity to prove yourself for the guys that are the undrafted trying to make it, it almost was non-existent.
Right.
You know, and that was a bad side of kind of what this COVID thing did.
Yeah.
Is they couldn't do that.
Right.
You know, they're trying to, you know, even when they're doing, they got approval to bring kids in to work out now.
Right.
And, you know, they're trying to do it, but it's nothing how it used to be.
Sure.
You know, so a lot of kids that came out this year, that probably would have got a look, maybe made the team or back at home.
Right. Whew, man.
And that's the bad thing. But I mean, Major League Baseball had it even worse. They cut their draft down, and there's no minor league baseball.
Right.
So think about all those kids that are just doing nothing. So COVID impacted the sports industry,
Right.
bad. Look at the NBA too.
Yeah.
The lower level leagues, no arenas are playing. I mean, it's just not a good year for the sports.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about going back to the youth piece, because it's an interesting thing. When you came up, interestingly, in a situation where your dad wanted to support you, but he wasn't necessarily a sports guy himself.
Yes.
And so at some point, clearly, it became apparent that you were, pretty good at a couple of these sports, and football stuck out. Tell me about the generational parallels and the differences, because you actually coach your own daughter, who, did you tell me she already has a scholarship offer?
Yeah, she committed to University of Hawaii on October 1st.
Wow, she's in ninth, 10th grade?
No, 11th grade.
11th grade. Okay.
11th,
Oh my gosh, she's just growing up before our eyes. So
So basically, the first day they could talk to that class of juniors, 22s, was on September 1st. So she had a bunch of offers, and she committed on the October 1st.
Wow, incredible. So tell me about the difference. And I know that you ran our club team,
Sure.
and tell me about the generational differences between, some of this infrastructure that exists now, like the club team thing. There are some towns, and we've had this discussion in Redlands, there are some towns that build fields for club teams and make it, and for tournaments, and make it part of the local economy. I mean, this is huge. You know what I mean? So tell me about that culture, that club team thing.
Yeah, so basically, and it's different for boys and the girls. So the men's and women's are different, kind of, where the club and the travel teams are necessary for the boys.
Right.
Scouts and colleges will still come watch you play in high school.
Right. Okay.
They still watch you play the scouts, and everybody will come watch you play baseball, football, basketball, right? Now with girls sports, you don't have to play high school at all. It's 100% recruited from the showcases.
Really?
So travel teams in volleyball, basketball, softball, that's how you get your scholarship, because they know that they get the girls that are skilled to go play in these tournaments and showcases, where they know that when you play high school that you're going to play with girls' talent levels that aren't very good. So half your team is coming from your rec leagues, and then some of your girls do travel. So it's kind of mixed, where when you play travel, everybody's pretty much skilled.
Right. Now, did your daughter play on the high school team at all, or?
Yeah, she did. And the high school season's always kind of been the for fun season.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Sure.
So basically, what I call it the biofiller.
Right.
Does that make sense? So when you go to college, it's your biofiller.
Right. So you can say, "Oh, she was at Cerritos High School," or whatever.
This, that, and the other. But I mean, there's a lot of girls that sign with Division I schools and that don't even play because of the coach.
Wow.
They don't like the coach. They don't know what they're doing. The team's not very good, so it's like I don't want to go out there and do those different things. And now with COVID, see, before the travel and the high school season with CIF, we had to go dark. So which meant that the travel teams couldn't play games during high school season. So we could practice, but we couldn't play games on the weekends and tournaments during high school. Now, with COVID, CIF made a rule that they waived that. So basically, you could do travel the whole time.
Wow. So
you're going to see influx of girls that don't even play high school again because they just go and do with the travel teams.
Right. Now, how do you deal? Well, let me ask you this. How do you deal with the notion? How do you make sure you're not the uncle that's putting your kid on, right? The one that you were afraid of. First of all, I mean, it's clear you kind of know what you're doing because these kids are going to school and playing ball and that whole thing. Yeah. But how do you strike that balance in both actuality and perception?
I don't know. I think it's a different process for everybody because again, there's some schools that are really good at softball that play in that top tier where almost everybody's a travel player and they want to go chase a CIF championship.
Right.
Then you got your other ones that are just your coach is your math teacher and he doesn't know much about softball and so it's kind of tough. I mean, I tell my girls if you want to play, but I don't need to. Like I'm contemplating my daughter might be done playing softball for high school.
Right. Sure.
Just because, at her school, there's no pitchers.
Right.
She
Wow.
and she used to be an ace pitcher, but she doesn't want to pitch anymore.
Yeah.
So she's going to play, shortstop in college. So she's like, I don't want to pitch, especially not every game,
Wow.
because the girl that was going to pitch, she's not playing.
Right.
So the team can't function without a pitcher.
Right.
So
Sure.
I don't know what's going to happen. And
Wow.
to be honest, I don't even think that high school even plays this season in the spring with COVID. I have a lot of friends who are ADs and superintendents, and I just don't see it. And it's not necessarily because of COVID itself.
Yeah.
It's because of the impact of scheduling, transportation,
Right.
field allocation, referees,
Right.
all the different things you're going to get when you jam all those things into basically 2 seasons.
Right. Wow.
3 seasons of sports into 2 seasons time. You're going to have like 3 events going on at one field. You have baseball, softball, and track.
Right. Right.
And maybe even somebody in the gym. So you're talking about social distancing. How's that work?
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean? How you doing that? And then how you taking buses? We don't have enough buses to begin with.
Right.
All these different teams going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then referees, a lot of these referees do multiple sports. So there's not going to be enough people to referee games.
Right. Right. Wow.
Referee, umpire, whatever it is. So it's more of a logistical nightmare than anything else.
Right. How do you tell me about the differences that you've seen over the years with how in football they've dealt with, student wellness and health, concussions, CTE, et cetera, over the years?
Yeah. So I'll go back to a story. I had 3 documented concussions
Right.
through my playing career, 2 in college, 1 when I played pro.
Right.
And, the first one I got was we played Cal State Hayward when I was playing at Redlands.
Right.
And I don't even remember what they did. I don't think they gave me a test or anything. All I remember is I had Anthony Jones, who was a running back, next to me.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I can't see the signs over there. Get them from Coach Mack and give them to me.
Wow.
So there was a spell. To me, I go back and watch that game, and I don't remember playing that like the second and third quarter. But I see plays. I'm doing things the different way. But I'm in plays I'm playing, but I didn't call the plays. I don't remember that at all. So that was kind of the first thing. Then when I was at Claremont, I had another concussion when we played Whittier.
Right.
And I went in the game and I still threw a couple more touchdowns. And I remember this, all of a sudden I'm on the sideline, helmet off. I'm on the back of the bench with another guy talking. And all of a sudden it looked like the C party because all the team kind of went like this. And the head coach goes, Nielsen, first offense. And I go, hey, coach. He said, what the? Called timeout and goes, what's going on? And then the backup quarterback had to get ready. The trainer came over and started talking to me, and I'm smiling. It was the best feeling in the world. I'm like, hey, what's up?
Hey.
And, we ended up losing. We ended up not losing the game, but we went behind like 2 touchdowns. So we go on at halftime, and they gave me a test. He gave me like 8 numbers.
Right.
Memorize these numbers.
Right.
And I'm still trying to get my head right. And then he added 2 more in the locker room.
Yeah.
So my quarterback coach goes behind him.
Yeah.
And he's flashing me the numbers.
Really? Wow. So that you could pass, right?
Pass the test.
Right.
I still remember I was still groggy until I started to sweat and I got hit again, and then I snapped out of it. Then I was fine. We came back and won.
Wow, that's crazy.
So the best way I could describe what a concussion for those that have never been concussed is it's like you are a little person on your own shoulder watching everything. So all of a sudden the world it starts like boom, 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 and like this vision, this like everything becomes clear around you. You hear things, you see things, and then it's like you're on your shoulder looking at everything.
Right.
So I kind of know what that feels like. So when I was playing arena, we were in Jacksonville and I kind of got hit again. I could feel that boom, boom, boom. So then I was like, oh man, I got to, I started taking deep breaths and drink water. I try to offset that because I could feel it coming on.
Right. Wow.
So that whole thing to where it's gotten to now with the concussion protocol is night and day. Now you come out, it's automatic. You're out 2 weeks for high school. When you get diagnosed with concussion, whatever, you're out 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. No questions asked.
Right.
Doesn't matter the severity of it or anything. That's you're sitting. Right. So I think with that, from that level, does that help you? Not really. I mean, football is never going to be something where you're going to cut that down. Even the technology, the helmets, and that, it's still a violent sport.
Right. Right.
Not football if you're not hitting, right? So
Right.
I think with the CTE, a lot of my friends, I'm a little off in the head from my concussions, and I played quarterback. I played it aggressively, but I banged around.
Right.
A lot of my friends that played other positions, got hit a lot more than I did. So I know that they have issues with CTE.
Right.
We talk about those things.
Right.
They know they're kind of messed up. That's why do I care if my son plays football? No, it wouldn't. But if he wants to play, we'll play. But it's not pushed.
Right.
And again, that goes back to my whole problem with youth tackle football.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No contact till high school, right?
With the Pop Warners and that. Yeah, because I mean, my whole thing is, if you're going to bang, do it at the appropriate time. Why would you do it when you're a little kid?
Yeah.
And the chance, it's just to take this one hit is one hit too many.
Yeah. Sure.
The chance to get a bad injury. And the sad part is the majority of these teams, especially out here, they're run by dads that weren't the best athlete in high school.
Right. They're trying to live vicariously through their kid.
You're not getting a bunch of guys that play to go out there and coach your sons. You get some of those, but the most part is it's the dad that trying to relive his youth through his kid.
Right. Trying to check a box. Yeah.
And it's not really football because you're playing with, they have these weight limits, right? So you're playing with a bunch of kids that look like you.
Right. Sure.
So someone's got to play offensive line.
Right.
Someone's got to block. Not everybody can be the quarterback and running back and star receiver.
Sure.
Those positions go to what? The coach's sons.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories of these kids that are in the NFL that were linemen playing for their Pop Warner team.
Right. Wow.
So with youth sports, and the main thing is just the contact of it. And I always tell people when they play flag, if you can make someone miss in flag, you can make them miss with pads on.
Right.
And the only difference that the kids that play Pop Warner have over kids that play freshman football is they know how to put the pads in their pants the first day.
Right. Wow.
They know where the equipment goes to the first day.
Right.
After that, the coaches got to teach them everything else they got to reteach them everything anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of times they get bad habits on that. But I mean, the main thing is now, especially is the protocol with the helmet injury, helmet to helmet contact and that. Why would you do it if you have an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old? Like what's the point? I mean, they're out there doing stuff because you want to put on a YouTube video. And I mean, I always tell people, I even told people anytime you put a junior in front of anything, it means it's a junior. Right. Whether it's junior varsity, junior All-American, I'm like, I don't care about that. We could see what you do on Friday Night Lights when it matters. I don't care what you did on Thursday for the JV team. That's good. I could see you, but it matters what you do Friday night. Right. You didn't get picked. Well, my son was a junior All-American. I'm like, that's nice. Okay. And what does that mean? What does that mean? You know what I mean? I just, and I've had to deal with that on all levels and all sports, with the moms calling me into the principal's office. How come my baby's not playing well? Because this club team said this. I go, well, that's fine. Go play club because I'm holding you accountable out here to this, and it's my show. Right, sure. So, so I have to have those conversations too. And a lot of people don't like to be told the truth. Right. So it's,
So does that lends to another thing that I want to talk about. Let's talk about trophy culture. How do you strike this balance, Jon, now I'll give you a perfect example. I played at the Inglewood YMCA, played basketball. My first year, our team went 0-10. I scored 4 points all year. I scored 2 points in the first game, and I scored 2 points in the last game. Then the next year, I averaged 2.2 points. And then the next year, I averaged 2.8 points. But those 2 last years, I made the all-star team. We all got trophies. And there's things that we got from sports, participation, competition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we did do some things to single out the ones that were the best. So tell me how do we strike that balance? Because most kids that play youth sports aren't going to make pro, right? But there's some things that they could get out of it. But at the same time, how do you strike that balance where you're like, look, there's something to be said to win. You're going to have to win in life. You're going to have to be the best person for this job. You're going to have to get into college or whatever else. How do you deal with that? And how do we deal with that in terms of the things we're looking at in larger society?
Sure. So I think it's a flaw that's I don't even know how it even creeped into sports.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been coaching youth sports since at least 2000. I came back and started coaching my nephew in 91. So 2001.
Yeah.
2001, 2002, I had made a promise to my nephew the first nephew, Corey, that I coached.
Right.
I said, when you get in third grade, I will come back and I will coach you.
Right.
So I just got done playing in Canada. It was going to be a new coach. Didn't feel like that at that point in my career that I wanted to kind of do it, to do the whole, sell myself and have the coach like me. You kind of get set that's why you see a lot of these veterans go follow their coaches.
Right.
The different teams, because they know what they get.
Sure.
You don't necessarily want to have to reprove yourself again and again.
Right.
So I've been coaching youth sports for 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
20 plus years.
Sure.
So my whole take on this is, in the trophy room that I have with my kids, is only first or second place trophies. There is no third place and there is no ribbons.
Right.
Those
Wow. Keep it real.
Those go in the trash. There is no such thing as that.
Right.
And I think it's sad because some of these leagues that I've coached in, the participation trophies are nicer than what they give the first place team.
Mm.
They spend more money on the participation trophies than they do with the actual medals they give to the first place teams.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there.
Right.
Okay. Now, I understand youth sports, everybody wants to play, but when you get older, they have to understand that there is a winner, there is a loser, but there's so many things that you get on a team. Not everybody on a team is going to be a star, but everybody has their purpose and their value.
Right.
You need someone to be a great practice partner.
Right.
You need scout team players.
Yeah.
You need all these different players that are going to help push the great ones.
Yeah.
You can't just play with great players. It doesn't work that way. That's not how team sports works.
Right.
You're not always going to be the main guy, but you got to be a solid person. You could be a good teammate, a good person. So I think a lot of this stuff you have to coach these kids and to teach them that, hey, if I'm not the guy, how am I going to find my way to fit?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. If I'm in a company, not everybody's going to be the CEO.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be the president. You have to have workers.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So it's the same thing in sports. And if you're not very good with that, if you're the person that's always trying to leave a team because you want to be the guy somewhere else, then you're going to have the same problem when you have a job. You're going to have no accountability.
Mm.
And I think that's the main thing, is being accountable for your actions.
Yeah.
And there's all different kind of things that come into play with, there's going to be talented kids.
Yeah.
I can't teach you talent. That's God given.
Right.
But there are certain things and certain quality traits you can work on, like being on time, hustling, being a good teammate, picking people up. There's different things with leadership that require zero talent.
Yeah.
So I've seen both sides of it, where I've had kids that weren't very talented but were superior in other aspects, and I've seen some kids who were superior in talent and terrible everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that this culture of everybody gets a trophy it's bad, because not everybody gets a job in life. Not everybody can make money. Yeah. It's everybody's not your friend. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where life is cold. Yeah. Sports teaches you failures and successes, but I think that some of these parents that go on these teams, that they celebrate mediocrity and everybody does this and the other, you're doing your son a disservice, or your daughter a disservice. Right. Because they need to understand what failure is like, and they need to understand that if you're not good enough to play, you better figure out a way. You better figure something out. How am I going to get myself on that field? Right.
I might have fit in.
And it's not just switching, because even in the club scene, there's these people that switch teams and organizations left and right.
Right.
Well, colleges take note of that, because if you're not going to sit there, you don't want to grind. Right. I don't want you as a player.
Right. Sure. Sure. That's huge. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the impact of race and in sports. We vibe on a lot of levels, and particularly culturally. Having connections to various backgrounds, loving R&B and hip hop and that type of thing. Tell me about some of your observations as an athlete in sports in the locker room, and how you've seen that kind of manifest and change over the years. Talk a little bit about that.
I think a lot of that is regional. I mean, like, because I've got to spend a lot of time in the South and some different places. For me, culturally, it was fun because everybody's perception. I was always Hollywood,
Right.
LA, Hollywood, and I did stuff too. I mean, quick story. When I was in Toronto, I had just done the Snoop Dogg video for Eastsiders. I was in that
Right.
game for the I love it. So I
Yeah.
was a quarterback and Snoop was a quarterback.
Right.
So it was kind of like, the longest yard remake. So we were going back and forth in that video.
Yeah.
So I'm in the training room after practice. They had a big TV. I'm getting stuff in the back, and then a
Right.
bunch of viewers are watching in front. They came on BET.
Right.
Pictures of me in there, and I kept seeing one of the guys kind of look back at the train table at me and like, let's watch some more. Then he had a really close up on me doing that.
Right.
He was like, hey, man, is that you? Yeah. He was from Louisiana, and he just tripped out. He was like, what?
Right.
So again, I think it's regional. And I know for me, being around African Americans and blacks,
Right.
that's always how the culture's been.
Right.
Me as an athlete, all my best friends were black growing up.
Right.
So that was always normal to me.
Right. Sure.
It didn't hit me until, my first kind of experience of it was I was at Redlands.
Right.
I had one of the JC transfer kid came in and was like, just started saying stuff at a party one time, and I was like, what this guy? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It was wild, and I was kind of like, okay, you don't see that a lot.
Right.
And I think that, sports is a lot like, I could equate it to being in battle when you're in the armed forces.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of some of my coaches on my softball team were Marines.
Yeah.
And when you're in a foxhole and you're fighting, it doesn't matter what color the guy is next to you.
Right. Sure.
You're not tripping on that when it's this guy's covering your butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not tripping. It's like when we're playing football. They're not tripping when we're playing against somebody else.
Yeah.
No, we're not tripping, but it's the other stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have to deal with anything that was political that was going on like now.
Right. Sure.
But I know that I would definitely be involved with certain things that are going on now in the space that we're in.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Do I think that things are racial? 100%.
Yeah.
Did I think that, the Kaepernick thing, everybody made a big deal about that. I had no problem with that. And you go over the story of it, he got advice from a Marine that told him what to do. He wanted to know what the best way he could do to protest. He said, take a knee.
Right. Right. The military guy told him to, right?
The military guy told him to do that, so he did it. And then it's just funny because people just blatantly lie about the whole purpose of it. No one's trying to disregard the flag.
Right.
No one's trying to disregard the armed forces.
Yeah.
They're just making a statement because, again, when Kaepernick did it, it was nowhere near where we are now.
Yeah, sure.
It's the dial's been turned up 1,000 since that.
Right. Yeah.
Breonna Taylor and all these different people with police brutality.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that bad when Kaepernick did it the first time.
Yeah.
It's way, way worse now.
Yeah.
We're in a much different climate now.
Yep. We are.
And it makes him, to Kaepernick's defense, it makes him more of a messiah, more so than anything else, because they got to go look back like he was right. He had it right then.
Right.
Look
right.
at what he had it right then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it brings a spotlight on that. And, I talk to my girls about that because, certain club sports are different. I can tell you travel softball is a very white privileged sport.
Mm.
You go on watch, there's not much color out there.
Mm.
And that goes for especially back in the Midwest and that. So I kind of pride myself in having, half my girls come from Hawaii.
Right.
So they have a lot of Hawaiian blood. And even the girls I have here, I have a lot of Latino and Hispanic girls too. I probably, I have some white girls too, but the team is very diverse.
Yeah, sure.
So we go to Georgia. We played last summer and you go out and play and, all these teams are all white girls.
Mm. Wow.
There's a few girls and it's kind of cool. There was a few teams from North Carolina that had all black girls and all black coaches, which I thought was cool. Right. And it's a rarity to see in softball.
Wow. Yeah, I bet.
You just don't see a lot of color. Yeah. It's kind of like soccer. You don't see a lot of color in professional soccer, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
You don't see a lot of color in hockey. Yeah. All sports, it's majority color than white.
Yeah.
So I think that I always kind of like to push the envelope and, and that's kind of why I have long hair and tattoos. I just kind of like to make people kind of have conversations about things, kind of break stereotypes.
Sure.
And especially now, I mean, it's a situation where I saw my first MAGA hat at a softball event 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
I had not seen one out here in the 3.5 years of this chaos we're in right now.
Right. Sure.
I had not seen someone walking around the streets wearing one.
Right.
And I saw a dad have one on, and I kind of had to look twice. I was like, is my man really wearing that MAGA hat?
Right.
I was like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's gotten to the point now where it's not even about Republican, Democrat. I mean, we could throw that out the way. It has nothing to do with policy. Right. It's not even policy. The MAGA hat is the modern day Klan hood for the most part. Basically telling you that I support Trump and what he does.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Sure. I support the racial division that he's saying.
Yeah.
And that's the dog whistle. The MAGA hat is the dog whistle.
Right.
And it's only the point where I'm not even proud to put an American flag up anywhere, because that's also a sign of that.
Right. It's crazy. Yeah.
The climate we're in, I see an American flag and I think of Trump.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want that. You know what I mean? So there's certain things that we've gotten to that I never thought we would be at.
Yeah.
I never thought we'd be here where we are now with just the racial stuff.
Yeah.
You know, sure. And it's funny because you could this too. With Facebook reveals a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people, friends, family that you thought were friends and family, that they post stuff and certain things like, wow, really?
Yeah.
That's how you really feel?
Yeah.
You know, so I think a lot, that's kind of going to be a great awakening, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, if Hillary had won, we wouldn't be in a situation. We wouldn't even be having this conversation about racial. We wouldn't probably be talking about COVID.
Yeah.
We would be in an alternate universe right now.
Yeah.
Hillary was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reminded sometimes you got to back up to go forward, and
Oh,
we're having some conversations we wouldn't be having.
And the biggest thing is, but her emails, like, okay, what about her emails? Look at
I had somebody post something about, and it was on them. They were on their own Facebook page, so I didn't bang on them or anything. They were like, yeah, it's something about Hunter Biden. And I said, listen, if I've lost a friend or a family member from COVID, or I don't have a job, and I think that the president is not sensitive to it and not paying attention to it, I could give a doggone about Hunter Biden. It's the furthest thing from my mind. That's real.
Years.
Yeah.
It's just so ironic that they make Hunter Biden, his kids are the worst.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like,
right.
I mean, he's the king of projection. The whole family is, whatever they say, they're talking about themselves.
Right.
Whatever they're talking about themselves.
It's crazy. Yeah.
They're my family.
Woo.
Everybody talks about, Trump, this and that. I was like, I want him to take the perp walk. I want him to lose and not, because they're talking about he would put Pence in and then pardon him for some of the stuff, and then so he won't be there. He won't be there at the inauguration. Petty. He's the king of petty.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And everything stems from that roasting that Obama gave Trump.
Oh, the whole thing. I mean, that's the whole thing, and that's why.
But that's it, though.
That's right.
All Trump cared about was undoing everything that Obama did.
That's it. That's why he joined up on what's the name? He would rather, I will say this at the risk of being political, he would rather have the Supreme Court get rid of Obamacare and him add pre-existing conditions back just to say that he was the one that gave you pre-existing conditions. He wants to undo everything Obama has ever done, and it doesn't matter whether it was good or not.
But that's all. It's all his presidency is.
Right.
He's trying to undo because he got shellacked at that.
Yeah. He did. He really did. I mean,
he got it given to him.
Obama banged on it. I remember him saying he was talking about what he did on his show or whatever versus what he does as president, and he had just made the call on Osama bin Laden and nobody knew. You know what I mean? And I remember him saying, yeah, and these are the types of things that would keep me up at night, and everybody was he was a laughing stock. You know what I mean?
Of course. And as a narcissist, that's the worst thing you hate is humiliation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And so, interestingly, I'm watching television shows, and you know what they're doing? They're laughing. You know what I mean? to keep from crying on some level because of the people that we've lost and some of those types of things. We could talk about that forever, but hopefully, we can turn the corner the way that we need to. And you know what? We need good people on both sides of the aisle. We need some.
You have to. And my whole thing is, I understand why the play is what the play is.
Yeah.
But I don't think people kind of realize, they just kind of looking at what's in front of them, not what's the pushing force behind them.
That's absolutely.
It's just a dying breed of the old white money that's trying to stay in power. They know that the world has changed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
They know it's a different place. So it's a power grab. It's a last minute power grab. Because I mean, you look at the picture of the Democratic Party and all their interns and everything,
right?
And the Republican.
Oh my God.
I mean, on the side, you saw women, you saw all different kind of ethnicities. There was transgender.
Yeah.
All different things. And then you look at the Republican, it's all white.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's different. That's changing. The world is changing. The world is already majority minority. You know what I mean?
But that's the world I live in, is the Democratic Party. Like I see different things. I see different color.
Sure.
I don't live in that Republican bubble.
Yeah.
I don't live in a white society. I don't.
Right.
I mean, that's not reality. That's not my reality. You're in California. That's not. You go around. Even in Redlands, you go around. Yeah. It's still color.
Right. For sure.
It's not all white,
Yeah, it's a different time, isn't it?
But it's frustrating because I tell my kids things, and it's like, well, even my wife she's a Republican, but it's like, how you can't even defend the person that Trump is.
Sure.
Like, we could debate politics, we could debate religion.
Yeah.
We could debate and have conversations all the time.
Yeah.
When wrong is wrong, that's just what it is. If someone tells you who you are, you got to believe them. I mean,
that's right. That's right.
But and he's doing that because he knows that's his base.
Yeah.
And he knows if he goes and loses, he's going to get banged up by the state of New York.
Right. Oh, for sure. And Biden can't help him on that. Listen, and Pence can't help him on that. So
he knows that it's a wrap. Once he walks out and he's back in Gen Pop, he's getting banged on.
Right.
He knows this.
Right.
He's going to do everything he can to stay in office.
Yeah.
Whether it's delayed in the Supreme Court and try to just stay there, and So at least we have some safeguards, which I don't even know if they'll adhere to. I think there's a date in January that Pelosi would have to take over.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not a Republican Speaker of the House, right? So I think we'll get there, and I think what's important about it, though, is that if it is overwhelming, if you're talking about changing 5 to 7 states as opposed to 1, then even the Republicans that are in power will come to themselves and say, wait, oh, no, this is over. It's over. You know what I mean? And so that's where we need to be. So for sure.
And I think that's the way it's trending.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he's trying to make it like mail-in ballots, or I mean, and it's just crazy because social media is such a crazy vehicle nowadays that you just lie about things and people believe.
Right. But what's hard is the truth.
What's crazy was his defense was the other night when he got pressed. Was like, oh, it's a retweet. It's a retweet.
Right. Listen.
This is because I didn't originate it. I retweeted it, so I made it my own. It's like, she got the best. You're not the crazy uncle. You're the president. You can't tweet stuff like that. You can't do that.
That's right. So
he was like, oh, like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, this is neat because we're reminded of how sports connects to politics. So. I want to say I appreciate you getting with me. I guess it's never too late for you to be a lawyer. I know you got into law school and had that option, but it's not too late.
And through sports, it's funny because my agent, that he's he played at USC, played with the Rams, got him Ron Brown. He was a general counselor for Eli Lilly for a long time.
Sure.
But he was the one that his grades weren't very good, but he went to Bloomington.
Right, sure.
That's where he went. Yeah. He scored 95% on his LSAT.
Yeah, sure.
But he was the one that told me, "Goes, hey man, you better be a lawyer. You got to take your test." I took my test.
Yeah.
I got a nice little score. I got into a couple schools. I got into Southwest.
Yeah.
I deferred it because I was just starting to work with Boyz II Men.
Yeah.
So,
I
put that on hold, and the next year that I kept doing more stuff, and I was like, man, I just can't put what I'm doing on hold for 3 years.
But it's nice to have options, though.
That's why I always said that I have good counsel.
That's right. Hey,
I have good counsel. But I mean, but that's you're only as good as your counsel, right? So I'm still doing everything I'm doing. I don't necessarily have to be that guy and that expertise, but I have other people that are.
And you know what you're looking for sure.
Right. So, but so I do the second best thing is I hire and I have good counsel. Then
right. That's it. That's how we do it.
People that get to collaborate and do things with me and the company and that. So that's the fun part of it. But I mean, certain things kind of make me, I like to kind of talk about those different things. And I think sports is such a great vehicle for that. I mean, even, we could talk about the LeBron, MJ, there's really no debate, but I think that what I respect the most about what LeBron does is very socially active.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it.
And what he does, and it's different, people, I mean, and I think the Last Dance people realize that MJ was all about his business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. He was the real deal.
Political because people just realized his drive was to win.
Right.
Like he didn't worry about anything else. So I think people understood that his mindset win at all costs.
Yeah.
He didn't really care about the politics.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's very philanthropic what he does, and he's doing stuff now for sure. I think if the climate had been different, he may have been a little bit more different. Does that make sense?
So yeah.
LeBron is living in a situation where he's the poster child for lives matter. I mean, he's
and fortunately he responded to it.
Right, he's putting it on his back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Jon Nielsen, I thank you, my brother. Thank you so much for getting with us, and we'll keep watching what you're doing for sure, and then just kind of go from there.
We have to do a part 2 and talk about the whole entertainment side with that stuff. That's a whole other.
Oh my God, that'll be fun. We'll make sure we do that for sure.
All the stories and all the fun stuff, and
yeah. All right, fam. I appreciate it. Joe Speak Podcast. That's it. We got it, huh?